My name is Claire Bennett, and this morning, I signed a deal worth more than everything my late husband's family once owned. Funny how life circles back, quietly, elegantly, and with a hint of poetic justice. The sunlight spilled across my office window, catching on the silver edges of the framed photo on my desk. In it, I'm standing beside Michael, my husband, smiling, young, unaware of what would follow. I trace his face with my thumb before setting the frame down. The phone buzzes, slicing through the calm. A message from a number I haven't saved in years. Claire, we need to talk. It's about the estate. My chest tightens, not with grief this time, but with something colder. Control. I lean back in my chair, the soft silk of my blouse brushing against my skin. Outside, the city hums, alive and indifferent. They think I'm still that fragile widow they dismissed at the cemetery gates, head bowed, heart shattered, powerless. They have no idea. I exhale slowly, letting the moment stretch. So, I whisper to the empty room, they finally remembered I exist. I glance around my office, the polished marble, the awards glinting under soft light, the scent of coffee lingering in the air. Everything here I built from the ruins they left me in. And if they're coming back into my life now, they're about to learn just how much can grow from what they tried to bury.
Rain.
It always seems to rain at funerals, doesn't it? That day, it soaked through my black dress and down to my bones. The world around me blurred, umbrellas, murmurs, the dull thud of earth against the coffin. I remember clutching the single white rose in my hand until the stem bent, the petals trembling like I was. Michael was gone. And with him, the only family I thought I had. When the last handful of dirt fell, his father, Richard Bennett, stepped toward me. His face was carved from stone, grief sharpened into something colder. Claire, he said, voice low but cutting through the rain. You've been through enough. We'll handle the property and legal matters from here. I nodded numbly. Of course. Whatever needs to be done. He looked at me then really looked. Not with sympathy but calculation. The estate reverts to blood family only. It's what Michael would have wanted. The words hit harder than the thunder overhead. Blood family. I managed, my voice trembling. Richard, I was his wife. His lips barely moved. By paper, yes. But family is different. You understand. Behind him, Michael's sister avoided my eyes, pretending to fix her umbrella. No one spoke up for me. No one even touched my arm. In that moment, something inside me cracked, and then, quietly, solidified. I turned away before the tears could fall. I remember the weight of my wedding ring, the way it burned against my skin. The car I left in was borrowed, the apartment I returned to half empty. My world, everything Michael and I built together, was gone overnight. That evening, I found a small box at the bottom of my suitcase. Inside was a folded note from my grandmother. A woman's worth isn't given by inheritance, Claire. It's built with her own hands. Don't let them decide your value. I held that note against my chest and cried until the sky outside turned pale again. By dawn, I had made a decision. If everything they stole from me was blood family only, then I'd build something so powerful, so unshakable, that not even blood could touch it. The first night in my new apartment, I slept on the floor. No furniture. No money left after the funeral. Just a thin blanket, a box of papers, and the echo of silence. For weeks, I lived off coffee and canned soup, trying to figure out what came next. I applied for jobs I was overqualified for, and got rejected from the ones I wasn't. My savings evaporated faster than my hope. But every night, before I closed my eyes, I unfolded that note from my grandmother and read it again. A woman's worth isn't given by inheritance, it's built with her own hands. So I started building. Michael and I had once dreamed of opening a small interior design studio. I still had the sketches, the layouts, the color swatches tucked in an old binder. I knew how to design, how to create beauty from emptiness, just like I had to do with my own life now. I started freelancing online, designing home offices, small cafes, even nursery rooms. The pay was small, but every project reminded me that I could still create something meaningful. Then one day, a woman named Evelyn Drake found my profile. She ran a mid-sized design firm in Boston and needed someone to help with a project, on trial. I said yes before she even finished the sentence. Evelyn was sharp, intuitive, and kind in a way that didn't pity you. She pushed me hard, but she saw me. "You've got an eye, Claire," she told me one late night over coffee in her office. "Stop designing like you're asking permission to exist." That sentence stayed with me. With her mentorship, I learned everything about the business side of design, contracts, clients, budgets, branding. I took on side projects, built a name slowly, quietly. Within 2 years, I was leading my own team inside her firm. Within 5, I left to start my own. Bennett and Company. Interiors. The irony wasn't lost on me, using their last name as the foundation for my empire. But I never advertised, never bragged. I kept my success tucked away behind a calm smile and modest updates on social media. People assumed I'd moved on quietly, maybe remarried, maybe teaching somewhere. That suited me just fine. My office grew. My designs began winning awards. My name, Claire Bennett, appeared in magazines they probably read in their breakfast nook. But even then, I didn't reach out. I didn't need them to see me rise. I just needed to know I could. Every milestone, my first big client, my first $1 million contract, my first home that was mine alone, felt like stitching together pieces of a woman they tried to erase. And yet, even after all that, I kept the same small note pinned inside my desk drawer. A quiet reminder that what I had wasn't revenge. It was rebirth. It happened on a Thursday morning, calm, ordinary, unassuming, until my assistant buzzed in through the intercom. "Ms. Bennett, there's a Mr. and Mrs. Bennett here to see you," they said, family. For a heartbeat, my pen froze mid-signature. That name, their name, felt like a ghost I'd buried years ago. I composed myself, smoothing the crease of my beige blazer. "Send them in." The glass doors opened, and there they were, Richard Bennett and his wife, Eleanor. Time had etched deeper lines into their faces, but the arrogance? Untouched. They looked around my office with polite disbelief. The polished floors, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, the scent of fresh lilies in the air. "Claire," Richard started, his tone half curious, half cautious. "You look well." I smiled lightly. "Better than the last time you saw me, I imagine." He hesitated, exchanging a quick glance with Eleanor. "We didn't know you were in business." "Oh, I've been in business for quite some time," I said, motioning toward the design boards on the wall. "This firm, Bennett and Company. Interiors, keeps me rather busy." Eleanor blinked. "Bennett and Company? As in?" "Yes," I interrupted softly. "As in your family name." It seemed fitting. After all, it was the only thing you left me with. Silence. You could almost hear the air tighten between us. Richard cleared his throat. "We're not here for sentiment. We need to discuss something important. It's about the old estate. The business has been struggling. We may need to sell some properties, but since Michael left certain assets in your name..." "Assets?" I leaned back, feigning surprise. "You mean the ones you said reverted to blood family only?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Things were complicated then, Claire. Emotions were high." "Were they?" My tone was calm, but sharp enough to cut glass. "Because I remember the words clearly." "You made sure of that?" Evelyn's voice echoed in my head. "Stop designing like you're asking permission to exist." I rose from my chair and walked toward the large frame design hanging behind my desk, a blueprint of a sprawling luxury home. "Do you recognize it?" I asked. Eleanor squinted. "That's the Bennett estate." "Not quite," I corrected. "That's the new Bennett estate. I bought the land 2 years ago when it went into foreclosure. Renovated it myself. It's one of our showcase projects now, featured in Architectural Digest, actually." Richard's jaw tensed. "You bought it?" "Yes." A beat. Then softly. "With money I earned. Every single cent. Without your name, your help, or your permission." The silence that followed was thick, almost holy. Eleanor's eyes welled up first. Richard just stood there, the color draining from his face. I could see the realization hit him. The empire he'd built on inheritance had been outlasted by the woman he once called not family. "You've done well for yourself," he muttered finally, voice brittle. "I had to," I said. "You left me no choice." I turned, crossing my arms gently. "So tell me, Richard, now that blood family needs something from me, what is it exactly you're asking?" He opened his mouth, then shut it. For once, the man who had all the power had nothing to say. I let the silence stretch, long enough for him to feel every echo of his own words from that funeral. Then I smiled, not cruelly, but with a grace he'd never understand. "Don't worry. I'm not here to take revenge. I just hope you finally see, family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by how you treat people when they have nothing." Richard took a deep breath, the weight of years pressing down on his shoulders. "We're not here to fight, Claire," he said finally. "We need help. The company, our construction firm, it's sinking. We lost 2 major investors. The estate, the properties, they're all tied up in debt." I studied him silently, fingers resting on the edge of my desk. How poetic, I thought. The same empire that once looked down on me, now built on sand. Eleanor leaned forward, her voice trembling. "Claire, you've always been capable. You could perhaps acquire the company, manage it. It would save hundreds of jobs. You'd have control, of course, but it would mean saving the Bennett name." I tilted my head slightly. "The Bennett name?" I repeated softly. "The one I was told I didn't belong to?" Richard sighed, the fight leaving him. "That was a mistake." "No," I corrected him gently. "That was a decision." He looked away, shame creeping across his features. For a long moment, none of us spoke. The only sound was the faint ticking of the wall clock, the kind that makes every second sound heavier than the last. Then I stood, walking toward the window. The city below shimmered in late afternoon light, tall, resilient, alive. "Just like me." "If I help," I said finally, turning back to them, "it won't be a bailout. It'll be a rebuild, and on my terms." Richard frowned. "Terms?" "Yes." I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. "First, the company's ownership transfers entirely under my management. You can remain as honorary consultants, but no control, no veto. Second, 10% of profits will go to a foundation, in Michael's name, that funds scholarships for widows and single mothers. Third," I paused. "Third, you will publicly acknowledge me as part of this family. No whispers, no half-truths. You'll tell the truth, that I built what your blood could not." Eleanor's eyes brimmed with tears. "Claire, that's more than fair." Richard's voice cracked. "You'd really do this?" "I'm not doing it for you," I said softly. "I'm doing it for Michael. He believed in building, not destroying. And somewhere, I think he'd want his family to learn what legacy truly means." He nodded slowly, the words catching in his throat. I reached into my drawer and pulled out a small envelope, the original deed of the Bennett estate, the one they'd taken from me years ago. I placed it gently on the table. "Keep it," I said. "You were right, it belonged to blood family. But what I've built since then, that belongs to me." For the first time, Richard's facade cracked completely. He looked older, smaller, humbled. As they rose to leave, Eleanor turned back and whispered, "Michael would be proud of you." I smiled faintly. "He already is." The door closed behind them, and the silence that followed wasn't empty this time. It was peaceful, empowered. I glanced at the city again, sunlight now spilling gold across the skyline. My world no longer revolved around what they took. It revolved around what I created, on my terms, in my name, by my own blood and will. A week later, the papers were signed. The Bennett Construction Company, the same empire that once erased my name, now bore my signature across its future. The news made quiet waves in business circles. Widow turned CEO rescues failing family business. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I didn't care about headlines. What mattered was the silence inside me, calm, grounded, whole. I visited the old estate the following Sunday. The renovations were complete now, Sunlight streaming through tall windows, gardens blooming where weeds once grew wild. It didn't feel like their house anymore. It felt like something reborn. I walked to the study, where Michael's old desk still stood. For a moment, I let myself remember the way he used to hum while drafting blueprints, pencil tucked behind his ear. My throat tightened, not from grief anymore, but gratitude. From my bag, I pulled out the small folded note I'd kept all these years. The paper was worn soft from being opened 100 times. A woman's worth isn't given by inheritance. It's built with her own hands. I set it on the desk beside Michael's photo and smiled through tears. That single line had carried me through the darkest nights, through rejection and doubt, through every quiet decision to keep moving when it hurt too much to breathe. Down the hallway, I heard voices, workers discussing final touches, someone laughing. Life had filled this place again. Evelyn called later that day. "So," she teased, "how does it feel being the boss of the men who once doubted you?" I laughed softly. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like closure. And it truly did, because power, I'd learned, isn't loud. It's the silence that follows when you finally stop needing to prove yourself. That evening, I stood on the balcony overlooking the estate's lake, the same one I once watched from afar, when I had nothing. The water shimmered gold under the sunset, calm and endless. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. I whispered into the wind, half to Michael, half to myself. They said the property reverts to blood family only. A pause. Then a quiet smile. But they didn't know, I was always the heart that kept the blood flowing.